So, have you ever been in a situation where you've doubted your entire existence? Like, everyone has something they are pretty good at, and you are very sure that you are actually good at something, but somehow you get feelings that you are pretending to be that good and not because you're really that good. Well, that has a term and it is called Imposter Syndrome. So today I'm going to be sharing tips on how to manage and deal with Imposter Syndrome. Hi everyone, my name is Mimi and you are listening to A Dash of Colors. I'm so sorry this episode is coming in a little bit late. I had a really rough day and I was literally stressed. But as always, I promised that I was going to show up for you guys, and that is why I am here today. So, if you're a consistent listener, thank you so much for tuning in. And if this is your first time listening, this is A Dash of Colors, a self-help channel dedicated to everyone who is on a journey of self-love and care. And do not forget to subscribe to the podcast so you can get notifications on Wednesdays and on Fridays when we upload episodes. Okay, so let's get right into the episode. So, what exactly is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome, according to Google, is doubting your abilities and feeling like you're a fraud. I'll use myself as an example. I started podcasting last year, March 21st, and ever since then, I've had to show up and then say certain things. And sometimes there were even times when I had mental breakdowns while recording, and I still pushed all those things out because at that point I was really at a bad place, and I was really never recording because I wanted to take podcasting serious. I just wanted to record because I wanted to get out my feelings out there. But recently I've been trying to figure out how to make contents that are more enticing or more interesting rather for everyone or for a larger audience. And chances are there are times when I would sit down to actually think of something to say, and then I'm getting feelings like you're wasting your time, you are not good at this is not who you are pretending, and you know that you really cannot talk that well, and so many other thoughts, right? So most times I try to brush off those thoughts, but the point here is thoughts like that exist, and it's usually predominant in people who value achievement. Most times when you are very good at dealing or achieving your goals, chances are you start feeling at some point like you do not deserve all those achievements, or that you are pretending to have such places, right? So that is exactly what imposter syndrome does to you. It messes up with your mind. It makes you believe that you are not good enough for a job that you probably already have, or that you're not good enough, or you do not deserve someone to love you, and things like that. So imposter syndrome is basically any feeling that makes you feel like a complete fraud. Okay, so how do we deal with imposter syndrome? Since these are thoughts that come to our mind, how exactly do we get rid of it? Are we trying to say that we can actually do something to make it stop coming, or to make it stop saying things to us? Well, chances are if you're someone who values achievements a lot, you might end up having problems of imposter syndrome once in a while. So the best thing is to learn how to deal with it, how to manage it when it comes, right? So the first thing I would advise is look at the numbers. So when I say look at the numbers, I'm not saying look at your bank account. Of course not. I'm trying to say, what are those things you've done? What exactly are your achievements? Can you list them? Can you actually write them out? What have you done? What are the great things that you've actually done? You know, imposter syndrome is a feeling, so it means it's really in your head and it is not a reality. So one of the ways to actually deal with it is by presenting the actual fact. So your head is saying you're not good enough, but you are doing things that tons of other people are talking about. So the best way to actually deal with this feeling is to present facts to yourself. This is what I've done. This is where I've traveled to. This is how good my relationship has been. This is how things are working for me. This is how school has been doing, and things like that, right? I remember when I was in school, I had classmates that were really, really good. And the truth is, I actually envied them because I was barely average. I was trying to meet up with a lot of things, especially with my grades. So then I would look at my grades and I'll feel like I don't even talk in class. How do I make these A's? How do I make these B's? And then I would question myself a lot. But at the end of the day, I try to remind myself that I really worked hard for this. So most times when your head tries to say things like you are not that good, actually say the things that you are good at, right? You're like countering those falsifications or those thoughts with actual or real pictures or images of things that you've actually done. So that's the first thing that I would usually do when I get hurts like this. The second thing I would advise is try to stop overthinking things, right? I know that we get the urge to evaluate our lives based on how well every other person around us is doing. And then the problem with that is that you open yourself up to very unnecessary judgmental thoughts, trying to say how you're not good enough and how you're not doing enough. So do not overthink things. Things will always fall in place. I say that to myself even when I am very uncertain about virtually everything, right? I still say things like things will fall in place eventually. So that's the kind of mindset you should have towards life. Because if you open up yourself to constantly worrying and trying to figure out every single detail, sometimes you might end up with thoughts that try to falsify your own achievements or to make you feel like you're not actually doing enough or that you're pretending to be doing enough even when you're actually doing enough. So reduce the thoughts, reduce how much you're worrying about what you're doing, how you're doing it, right? Focus on what makes you really happy and try to cut off pressure. That's the third thing. Pressure can come from friends, it can come from family members, it can come from social media. So whatever thing that is triggering thoughts of how much of a fraud that you are, you need to cut it off. If it's family pressure, you need to deal with it. It's either you talk to them about it or you move away from them for a while. If it is any kind of thing that is actually validating this feeling of being a fraud, you need to get rid of it. You need to find a way to separate yourself from any kind of thoughts constantly saying that you do not deserve a certain kind of thing or you're not supposed to have a certain kind of opportunity. So imposter syndrome is very, very psychological, and just like we have to deal with every other kind of mental issues like depression, anxiety, and the rest, people struggle with imposter syndrome a lot. And people who do are usually those who strive for all shades and forms of perfection. And as a result, they open up their minds to actually judging themselves and their abilities. So take it easy on yourself. It doesn't really matter if every other person around you is doing really, really well, and all you've ever done is get out of bed, and then go out to work and come back. That's really fine. There are people who struggle to even leave their beds every day. So it is important to constantly remind yourself that you are enough. And it's very important that even if you do not have any other person who say things like that to you, try to put up a form of affirmation. Like I once thought, try and put affirmations that reaffirm your reality. Do not put affirmations because you're afraid or whatever tradition that people use affirmations for. Use affirmations to reinforce what your actual reality is. So if you are a scholar, your affirmation should say, I am a scholar. I am really good at writing. I am really good at reading. I am really good at speaking and things like that. So these are the things that I usually put in place when I feel like I am pretending to be someone else. These are the things that I basically do, and it might not work for every other person, but this is what I feel like you should do when you start feeling like a fraud. And I hope today's episode made some kind of sense to you. Do not forget to subscribe to the Telegram community. The link is in the description of this podcast. And as always, guys, be good. See you next time.